So, your old truck's a little wore out, your first truck. It was your first love, but now it's time to let it go. So, we're gonna go talk about getting your next truck. There's a really good chance that when you got your first truck, you just kind of fell into it. You were looking, but you didn't know what you were really looking for. The right truck came along. You picked it up. It worked out. You know, you got it through a program or a friend or some guy knew somebody. Or you just kind of stumbled into it. First time buying is pretty tough. But now, you've done this a while, paid for your truck. It's time to get another one, so you're a little smarter, you got some better ideas, so let's go figure out how this works now. We're going to go on a little journey on how, to find your next truck. Don't be too hasty, and some things to look at that you may not have looked at the first time. Buying your second truck is a whole lot different than buying your first truck because you're a little smarter now. So I'm going to share some experiences that I went through and that some of my friends went through, and we're going to figure out the best course of action, and hopefully this will give you some ideas on what to look for when you go find your next truck. There's a really good chance that when you start looking, you're going to pick up publications of whatnot, start looking at the prices of trucks, and you're going to start looking online. So this is going to be a guide on how to navigate through all that to get you to a point where you can talk to a salesman, which we're going to talk about because you're going to have to. So let's talk about online and the publications, and then we'll head off from there. Now, before we get too far into this, I need to say this about your old truck. You've been hauling your particular brand of freight. You know what you're doing. You like what you're doing. You know what the shortcomings are, and you know what works well. So that should all come into your decision making when it comes to buying your next truck, because there's no point in buying a beautiful truck if it doesn't, or if you have to spend another $10,000 to $15,000 setting it up to haul your particular brand of freight. I've passed up quite a few trucks, and good, beautiful trucks, because they just were not set up for what I needed. So that's something to consider. So now let's get on to looking at used trucks. Now we're going to talk about new versus used real quick here. This video is kind of pointless if you're going to buy a brand new truck. You know what you're going to be in for. You know what the price is going to be. You order it. You're going to have a stellar warranty. It's going to be very expensive. You're going to have decent payments, but if you can afford it, great. The only thing to remember when buying a brand new truck is that for about the first 100,000 miles, you're just going to be sorting it out. There's a lot of stuff that's going to come from the factory that's not going to be perfect, that's going to be broke, and recalls. There's going to be quite a few recalls, so just be prepared for that. But the majority of that will all be covered under warranty. So you're going to spend probably the first 50 to 75,000 miles just sorting it out. There's going to be a lot of things, glitches, gremlins, stuff like that need to get fixed, but that's the disadvantage of buying a brand new truck. But that's also the advantage of buying a brand new truck, because all these gremlins and all of that stuff is covered under warranty. So just something to remember. If you can buy a new truck, go for it. But if you're going to buy a used truck, let's talk about that. Now we're going to talk about the truck paper, and I'm going to mix the online part in with this, is that every one of these guys in this paper, they all have websites. So any truck you see here, you can inquire about it online, which is nice, and then you can call the salesman and talk to them about it. But there's a few things here that are going to jump out at you, and I'm going to show you that. Now, if it's your second truck, you got a little bit of money, this is where you can be a little brand loyal if you want. If you prefer Peterbilt's, we'll find you a Peterbilt. If you don't really care or you like Freightliners or whatnot, we'll find you one of those too. And there's a lot of different things that are going to vary in price depending on what you want. And some of them are very minute and some of them are ridiculous. And we're going to talk about those right now. Now, as we go through the magazine, this national chain of truck stores that their name rhymes with Lush, we're going to concentrate on these two, 2005, 2006. You notice there's a $20,000 price difference between the two. They have comparable mileage. They're almost identical, the same truck, but there's a couple differences. The MX-13 and the year. So is that worth $20,000? The short answer is no, but it's a sales, chances are these trucks could have been made within a month of each other. One has 384,000 and the other one has 408,000. And so they're almost identical trucks set up with the exception of the engines, and one's got a double bunk and one's got slightly less mileage. So the ISX is a more desirable engine than the MX-13. That's about the $10,000 difference there. The other difference is the year. I noticed when I went to go buy this truck, I was looking at one that was a year newer, and it was about a 10 grand difference. So every year they're going to tack on a little more money for something just a little bit newer. And does it make any sense? Nah, not really, but it's just like buying a used car. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So be ready to pay. Now, I'll guarantee if you had a 2005 with the ISX, the price would be, well, let's see if we can find one. Believe it or not, I've been digging through this for a while and I can't find a 2015 with an ISX in it. That right there ought to tell you something. Everything is the MX-13, MX-13, the PACCAR engine. There's a reason for that, and what your feelings are about the PACCAR versus the Cummins and all that, we're not going to discuss that. The reason is that the MX is a wildly unpopular engine, and that's part of and the reason it was wildly unpopular wasn't due to the fact that it was a crappy engine. It was the emission systems on them just were junk, and that's been my conclusion. They tried to put a Cummins system on a brand new engine and it just didn't work, and they had a lot of problems with them. They're getting it sorted out now, but from what I hear from overseas, the PACCAR engine completely opened up. I guess it's a beast, but I digress. So if you want an ISX or a Cummins, expect to pay a little more, but a 3 to 5 year old truck is running anywhere between on the average of about 50 grand. That's between 50 and 70 on the average. So you can expect to pay that for a good used truck. So now let's get into talking to salesmen. When it comes to salesmen, not all of them are scummy. A lot of them are though, but you have to remember their job is to sell. They're there to make the company money. They're there to sell you a car. They're not there for your buying experience, which is why most of them fail. Couple rules. If he's not willing to even meet you remotely halfway, walk away. If they're going to rock bottom your trade-in, you can do better, walk away. And most important, if they don't shut up long enough for you to ask any questions, but all they're trying to do is pressure you into buying, and they just keep talking and talking and talking and never shut up, you don't want that truck. So go search out a few places, find a salesman you like, and have him look for you. Tell him what you want. I had one do that for me up at an international dealer. I ended up not buying from him, but he was great, and when I go looking for a truck, I may go talk to him again. But he, you know, if they're worth their salt, they're going to find you what you're looking for. And this guy was good. So if you know what you want and you find a good salesman, go for it. But like I said, if he doesn't ask you any questions and he just doesn't let you talk, but he's really trying to pressure you into buying something particular, walk away. There's no shame in walking away. Okay, so you don't have a truck for another week. It's better than lose a week rather than another 3 to 5 years worth of payments on a truck you didn't want in the first place. The one thing I made sure of when I bought a used truck was I had the ECM downloaded. I emailed it to Cummings, had them go through it. Now, I have a friend of mine that works there. I sent it to him. It all came back good. If you're not lucky like me to have somebody who's willing to do this for you, you can call somebody, send it to Cummings. It might cost you a couple of bucks, but they should be able to diagnose it and tell you if the truck's good. I also insisted on a maintenance history. I got a decent one, but the advantage was I knew which company the truck came from. So they have a good reputation for taking care of their trucks and whatnot. This was a fleet truck, but this company that owned this truck before me buys all owner-operator spec trucks and takes reasonably good care of them. So that was good. Now, I had the ECM downloaded. I had the maintenance history done. I knew the history of this truck. That's important, which is going to lead into the next thing. I'm sad to say there's no right answer here. Fleet maintained or one owner, like it was a, you know, bought new and traded in. Typically, you'd want to think that the one owner who bought it brand new would take a better care of it, but chances are, you know, it can go 50-50 either way. I don't know if I'd want to own a fleet truck again. The last truck I owned was a fleet truck, but their idea of maintaining thing was to band-aid it and send it down the road. And I actually heard one of the guys say that, who was in charge of the trucks. Never did overheads, pushed the oil changes out as far as they could, just kept it DOT legal, and as soon as the warranty looked like it was going to be up in 50,000 miles, they just punt them. And a lot of companies are doing that. It's cheap. Let it be the next guy's problem. So what happens is the emission systems are never cleaned, the dampeners are never replaced, the overheads are never done. It's a slippery slope. So what I talked about in one of my other videos was about deferred maintenance, and this is a prime example of that. A lot of this maintenance is put off because the warranty's getting to run out. They're only keeping it 500,000 miles. In fact, they're probably only going to keep it 400,000 miles. And the only reason it's got 430 was because they just had to get it back to the shop. So you have to keep that in mind. That's why it's so important to do maintenance history and whatnot and figure out what's going on, because if all they've done is the bare minimum, you're going to be picking up the slack on your end. So that's something to think about. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't buy a used truck. It just means you should do your homework. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. The last thing I'm going to talk about are pre-emission and deleted trucks. You got to remember, pre-emission trucks and pre-ELD trucks, they are old trucks. It doesn't matter how many times they've been rebuilt, they're million-plus mile trucks. And if you find one with 500,000 miles on it that hasn't been driven that much, you can guarantee that once you put it on the road, you're going to start blowing wheel seals. You're going to end up doing a lot of repairs because you're going to have everything fail at once. And I'm not trying to step on people who have deleted trucks, but truthfully, if you have a dealer willing to sell you a knowingly deleted truck, you don't want to deal with that dealer because he will not stand behind that product. That's the sad truth. He can't legally stand behind that product anyways. He's going to take your money, and that truck's going to be your problem. And it's going to roll off the lot, with not very many places that are going to work on it. That being said, it's not that I'm against deleting a truck. I think they run better without the emissions. But part of the problem is that if you buy a truck that's been previous deleted, you have no idea who did it. You have no idea of the history of it. There are more bad delete jobs out there than good ones. So you have to be very careful with that. Because chances are, you're going to buy a truck, if you buy a truck that's been deleted, you're going to get 50,000 miles out of it, and it's going to shell. I've seen a lot of guys do deletes in their driveway, and they are hack jobs. I mean, it's bad. Unless the guy knows what he's doing, it's not worth taking the chance. And that's just what I've come to discover. So, buyer beware when it comes to deleted trucks. If you're not going to do the delete yourself, and I'm not endorsing that, I can't, don't buy one that was previously deleted if you do not know who did the delete, because there's nobody to stand behind that truck. You just bought yourself a truck with no warranty, no nothing, and if it shells, you're just out. So take that into consideration. Just be careful. So with that, I'm going to sit here and round this video out. In the end, it's ultimately what you want. What's going to work best for the application that you need it for? I can't tell you that. I can just tell you about what I went through and the things and steps I took to ensure that I got the best deal I could get. And my deal wasn't perfect. Your deal's not going to be perfect either. It's just the nature of the beast. But you can get close. That's the important thing. Get what you want. Don't settle for less. Find a payment you can stand, and most importantly, just do your homework. You know, we can sit there and overanalyze everything to the point to where we're just paralyzed. Don't go that far. The truck's gonna break. That's given. You're gonna buy the truck, and you're gonna spend a little bit of time just fixing things. It happens to everybody. Everything I fixed on my old truck, I'm kind of fixing on this truck too, and when my next truck, I'll buy that one. The important thing is to learn from the buying process. You know, you bought one truck, you know you can do it. You're going to buy a second truck, and you're going to be fine. Just do your homework, take your time, don't get in a hurry, and you'll get what you want. That's the important thing. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you like the videos, give me some suggestions on what you want to see. I have a truck video coming out next week for the F-250, and we're going to do probably one more trucking video before I get home. So if you like what you see, please like, share, subscribe. I'm having fun doing this, and when I get home, we're going to do another Olds video, and like I said, I have another F-250 video coming out, and hopefully we're going to do a couple with the Crown Vic. So we're having a great time with that. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next video.